Dave Weinberg covers the Eagles, the Press of Atlantic City, as he joins us now on the Boardwalk on the Hotline. The Eagles getting ready. Dave, this is an interesting game. You've got Minnesota and Philly, both teams in the NFC Championship game last year, really at a crossroads of their season at the quarter pole here.
Yeah, both teams need to win. But there's two different teams, really. I mean, they're the same team name-wise, but so much has changed since the championship game. But as far as this season goes, you're right. They're both teams are in probably not where they wanted to be, and both need a win to try and turn their season around and get back on track.
What are some of the things you say both teams are different and the Eagles aren't where they want to be? What are some of the things that are different and maybe need to change from where they were last year? Because a game like last week, they were winning that game last year. They were finding a way to step on the throat and win that game. So what's different now?
Well, quarterbacks for one. It was Nick Foles, the quarterback against the Vikings. It was Case Keenum, for Minnesota against the Eagles. Now you got Wentz and then Kirk Cousins. And, personnel's a little different now. You have John DeFilippo as the Vikings offense coordinator now. I don't know if the personnel is necessarily the reason. I just think the attitude may be, a little different. I don't know that the Eagles have that underdog mentality that they had last year. There's a reason for that. I mean, they are the Super Bowl champs, defending Super Bowl champs, so it's hard to get, to view yourself as an underdog. But that's kind of what the players have been talking about the last couple of days, and the coaches too. The need to not to panic, but to realize that, if they don't start turning it around, if they don't start increasing their focus, if they don't start getting that same mentality back, then this could be a kind of a disappointing season.
No doubt. And the way they played last week, I mean, that's a game that, I think last year they found a way to win. This year it seemed like they found a way to lose that game.
Yeah. I mean, it was there for the taking, but I got to give the Titans credit. You got to give Mike Vrabel. I got to give him a lot of credit for having the guts to forego the tie and go for the win. That was a big boost for them. And I thought Mariota played very well too, although the Eagles defense kind of helped them out a little bit. But you're right. That was one of those. That's kind of one of those games that they kind of way to win last year. And
yep.
That's a game that got away from them this time.
Hey, I think it was you that tweeted this. I don't know if it was Sunday during the game or what, but did you? I felt they were missing McLeod, and that was kind of underrated story that he got hurt, and then how they filled that spot. I'm not knocking Corey so much, but I think Corey played his role really well, which allowed that defense to have that guy play a role that Jim Schwartz really liked, and it was kind of a domino effect. Graham was asked to do more, which meant that somebody else had to go to do his role. There might have to be something. There might be something there.
Oh yeah, I mean Malcolm Jenkins, and deservedly so, gets a lot of credit for the secondary, but it was Rodney McLeod who made all the defensive calls, who made sure everybody was set up in the right position, made sure everybody knew their responsibilities. And Malcolm would be the first one to tell you that his loss was huge. And no disrespect to Corey Graham, like you said, he played the role that he was asked to play last year very well. But now you have him playing Rodney's role to a certain point. Now you have Avonte Maddox, a rookie. Now they're moving him back to safety. He's never played safety in his life, apparently. So there's a lot of moving parts going on out there today, and it's a big hole that they have to fill. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Doug came out and said that he's reviewing all the positions, and he's going to assess where there possibly needs to be changes made. What, in your mind, do you believe has to be made? As what changes have to be made, and what changes will be made?
None.
None.
No, he says that every week. They're not going to bench anybody. They're not really going to change anything. Jalen Mills is going to be your corner, which Jim Schwartz kind of reiterated yesterday. A lot of people wanting him to be benched, and they want Sidney Jones out there more. But they're a pretty big believer in Jalen. I mean, he's had a rough start to the season. He's given up some big plays. He's had some stupid penalties, but he's an aggressive, physical corner. And when you're playing that way, when that's your style, you're going to make mistakes. But Jim seems to have a lot of faith in him that he's going to be able to bounce back. I think Ronald Darby might be somebody you might want to take a look at, though. I mean, his tackling has just been atrocious. He's a great cover corner, but When it comes to like open field and stopping a running back or a wide receiver or whatever, he hasn't been doing very well. So, but to answer your question, I don't think Doug's going to make any changes. He's just kind of maybe trying to light a fire under some guys, but I don't see any like wholesale benchings or any of that kind of stuff.
Do you feel like they will be able to have somewhat of long-term success from the defensive side with how they're currently lining up and how Jim Schwartz has been calling the plays? There's been a lot of people complaining that the corners are playing too far off the receivers, 10, 12 yards off, that maybe the secondary isn't being aggressive. Do you feel like they'll be able to turn this around and rattle off multiple wins in a row?
Yeah, I think so. I think this defense has too much talent to be able to continue the way they've been doing. The pass rush hasn't been getting there lately. They did have 3 sacks on Sunday, but I don't really remember any of them, to be honest with you. But they have a lot of depth up there up front. I think maybe they'll also Tim Jernigan might be felt more than they're willing to admit, because he seemed to be a guy who could collapse a lot of stuff inside along with Fletcher Cox. So it doesn't seem to be that guy that's able to team with Fletcher to create some havoc on the inside. But hopefully hopefully one of those other guys will be able to step up, or they'll maybe get Tim back later in the year. I don't know. But there's a lot of depth on the outside, though, defensive end-wise, and Brandon Graham still hasn't had a sack yet. I would find it hard to believe that he'll go too much longer before he'll start collecting a few. So I don't think there's any reason to start panicking just yet.
Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City covers the Eagles on the Boardwalk on the Hotline. So, Dave, what would your reasoning be? Is there the home-road splits defensively? In other words, is the defense – do you look more at the home-road splits and say they're just not as good on the road, or do you think that the defense is starting to show some decline?
Is what? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Starting to show some decline, or is it as simple as, no, they're just not as good on the road?
To me, I think the environment might have a lot to do with it. Because when you're at home, that's when the crowd is behind you as a defense. The fans go crazy, generate a lot of excitement, a lot of noise. It's tough for the opposing quarterback to hear the signals or to give the signals. On the road, it's the exact opposite. You're the one that's playing in silence, while the other team's defense is the one that's getting all the benefits of the fans. So I think that might have something to do with it. But to be honest, I don't know the reason for the disparity. To be honest with you, I just have a feeling that it might be the environment, like I was saying, and the Eagles are home this week, so maybe they'll be able to turn it around and take advantage of the crowd.
So, in other words, it's that simple, that they're just not as good a defense on the road, and that because I think a lot of people are starting to wonder if there's something to these splits, or if it's more to that, meaning they're just not as good of a defense as we thought.
Well, then why are they so good at home then?
I'm not in that camp. I'm just telling you what the feedback we get. I think it's as simple as the splits are certainly right there before our eyes. I just don't think they're as good a defense on the road. I think they are legitimately a very good defense, and that shows at home.
Yeah, that's a reasonable thought, I think. I don't know. I hear people complaining about the defense all the time and about Jim Schwartz, but I just have to give in to him. I mean, he knows more about defense than you or I or anybody that's complaining. So I have to trust him when he says he's going to figure a way to get this defense back on track. I don't know the reason for the struggles, but if he thinks that Jalen Mills is certainly capable of playing, I got to believe him. If he thinks that Corey Graham can fill that role that Rodney McLeod had, I guess I got to take his word for it.
What did you see from Alshon Jeffery in his return, and how much of an impact he made in the game against the Titans despite the loss, and what do you anticipate the offense to look like against the Vikings?
Well, that was huge. I mean, Alshon he gave them an element that they just haven't had before. That big, strong, physical guy that can go up and take the ball away from people, or he can beat defenses deep if he has to. He's a really strong threat in the red zone. I mean, he was a huge addition for the offense. You could tell they were clearly missing him the first 3 games. Going forward, they got to find a way to get healthier in the backfield, though. I know Corey Clement didn't practice today. Darren Sproles didn't practice again. Jay Ajayi missed a game. I think Wendell Smallwood might be the only back who's played all 4 games, and you really can't rely on him to be the go-to guy. So you got to get healthier back there and to try and create a little bit of more of a balance with your offense. You got to be able to run the ball in this league, especially later in the season when the weather gets colder and stuff. So I think that's the biggest adjustment they have to make. The offensive line has been really struggling too, though, which has been a big problem for them. I mean, Lane Johnson admitted that yesterday that they're supposed to be the best line in the league, but they certainly haven't been playing like it. So, to be honest with you, I don't know how you fix that. I don't know if Jason Peters has just kind of hit the wall of being 36 years old, or if there's maybe even get in better shape as the season goes on. But if they can get all that stuff fixed, which is a lot, but if they can, I have no reason to believe that they can't, become that dynamic offense that they had last year.
What about the running back position? Because, listen, 18 rushes, 50 pass attempts. I personally think that's not sustainable for long-term success. They had some injuries to deal with. Ajay got 15 carries, and then that was essentially it. Smallwood, 6. What do they need to do differently from that aspect this week?
They have to commit to it. They have to commit to the run. It's been too often where they've kind of gotten away from it. Even if you fall behind, there's no reason. And they didn't fall behind. They were up by like 17, I think, on Sunday. So
17-3.
Doug just has to be able to commit to whoever's out there and who's able to play. You have to ride with them. If it's Ajay, if it's Clement, if it's Josh Adams, if it's Wendell Smallwood, if it's Foles, whoever it is. But you have to have that more. You have to have more of a balance. You can't have Wentz back there throwing 50 times or whatever, because he's going to be, not only is he's going to take a beating if he's back after that often.
Yeah, of all the things that are going wrong, I mean, it sounds like this is a team that's like on the path to destruction here, which is maybe not the case. But of all of the things that are kind of lingering, what is most perplexing to you as to the struggle that they're having right now?
Perplexing. Boy, that's a tough one. The offensive line puzzles me more than anything.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the strength of that offense.
And this is a line that's been together for
Pro Bowlers back.
Yeah, they've been together. This line has been together too. I mean, that's continuity is big.
Right. You have Brooks was in the Pro Bowl last year. Lane Johnson, Jason Peters has been in the Pro Bowl like 25 times or something like that. Jason Kelsey's had a great year last year, and Stefan Wisniewski as well. So, yeah, they've been together for an entire year. They played very well together last year. Why they're not in sync, as much in sync this year, I don't know. But I think that's been the main problem to this point.
Dave, do you think they have to get used to playing with Carson Wentz again? I know that seems crazy to some people, but listen, they're used to Nick Foles. They're used to them individually needing to step up and bring more to the table. Now their captain, their leader, their savior comes back in Carson Wentz. Do you think there's some challenges with the other players individually now that he's back?
Yeah, there's a degree of truth to that. That's a good point. Because Nick and Carson are both they're different style quarterbacks. Nick was able to get rid of the ball very quickly. He wasn't one to dance around and try to bide some time with his legs, which is what Carson kind of does, which made him a great player. But yeah, they do have to get used to it a little bit. They have to hold their blocks a little longer, maybe if possible, if they know that Carson's back there trying to dance around, trying to wait to find an open receiver. And whereas Nick would just either throw the ball away or whatever. But yeah, I think there is an adjustment period to be made there, and I'm pretty sure that I think they're getting there. I think they're making steady progress. I thought Carson played much better on Sunday than he did the week before, and I would anticipate him to continue to progress this Sunday.
Right. Hey, what about the receiver? Do you think they're making an adjustment to Carson as Nick, the velocity on the throws, it seems that Nelson is obviously having a little adjustment, it looks like anyway. And then, right. I mean, and obviously Alshon came back and that added, but to me, Dave, I think they're lacking that Torrey Smith. It was supposed to be Mike Wallace. I know Smith didn't have great numbers, but him being on the field, you had to account for him. And Wallace going down, I think that's not been talked about a lot.
Right, that's true. I mean, you saw the first play of the game, right? They threw deep to Shelton Gibson. They couldn't hang on to the ball or I guess it was maybe a little bit overthrown. But, yeah, they need that deep threat. They need somebody that's going to stretch the defense and keep them honest, and they don't have that. That's what like you were saying, Torrey Smith brought that to them last year. He didn't have great numbers, but he at least gave you the danger that you had to respect him. Same with Mike Wallace. They really haven't had it since Deshaun Jackson, but maybe Shelton Gibson can do it. Maybe Mac Hollins, when he comes back a little bit healthier, maybe he can do it. I don't know, but they definitely need somebody that's going to be able to at least force defenses to respect the deep threat.
We'll see it all unfold this weekend. They take on the Minnesota Vikings back at Lincoln Financial Field. You can hear that game right here. 4:25 is the start time with Merrill and Mike. Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. He'll be there. Of course, he was here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thank you so much, Dave. Always appreciate it, pal.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.